This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right. Fact Check This podcast. And before I get into today's topic, I wanted to, I guess maybe call it an announcement. On Tuesday, I talked about the Super Bowl halftime and my thoughts on that and stuff like that. And I think I'm going to try to get back to doing not 2 full episodes a week like I was at one time, and also not doing the daily stuff every day like I was, but at least ramping it up to a full episode that'll be released to all the podcatchers and all the platforms on Thursdays, and then do some more short form content, more opinionated, or talk about like news topics, like specific current events type of news topics on Tuesdays. Something a little bit shorter that won't go up on the podcatchers. It'll just be a live stream, and it'll be up for the usual video platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. So if you're interested, I think I'm going to start doing that, get into a little bit more content than what I have done over the last year since I'm feeling better and feeling like getting back into really seriously doing stuff. I also I put out a Substack this week, which was for Mark Metz's monthly publication Appeals. So head over to my Substack, and that'll give you a link to Appeals. Check it out. It's really good stuff as well. So yeah, getting back into more content making stuff. So today we will talk about weaponized empathy. And whether you're aware of it or not, you've been subjected to weaponized empathy definitely over the last year or so, but and really over the last couple months, they've really ramped it up. I'm sure everybody's seen this picture at some point in the last month or so. Oh, wait, that was the wrong one. Well, that's not the wrong one. That's the wrong format that I was going to put it up in. So I'm sure everybody's seen this picture in the last couple months or so. The poor 5-year-old with the bunny ears. And of course, let's pull it back up. ICE detains 5-year-old Minnesota boy. School leader says the agents used him as bait. Oh, God, they used a poor 5-year-old as bait. And then they detained him. Oh, no. How about this one? He went out to buy diapers for his kids, and then he was snatched. This poor guy was just out buying diapers and got snatched up. Look at his sweet babies. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen these and similar to them especially over the last couple months, as the anti-ICE propaganda has really gotten ramped up. These two things are examples of weaponized empathy. And we'll get more in depth onto this stuff after we take a look at the article. And so the link will be in the show notes on everywhere. Well, not on Facebook and Twitter, but on YouTube and on all the podcatchers and on Rumble. The link to this article is there. And the article is interesting, but also there's a lot more written by this author on the topic. So like the name of this blog, I guess, it's about empathy. The connection ties us together. And so this is just a post from that blog. So there's a lot of interesting research and other more in-depth articles that go into this. This one is just a short one. So, weaponized empathy. One of the terms that gets batted around quite a bit lately is the phrase weaponized empathy. I've been talking about empathy as a weapon for a while, but I think it was my Twitter ex-pal, Theo Jordan, who certainly rearranged the word order. What does weaponized empathy really mean, though? Most people misunderstand the basic core, empathy, as wanting to give someone a hug, or rather, your predilection to give someone a hug if you're slightly more evolved. That is not what it means at all. I created a modified version of Frans de Waal's empathy pyramid that folded in my understanding as far as what happens when you put all the researched areas of connection together. These are represented in my own empathy pyramid. Short version of a long story like the rest of this blog. The stuff at the bottom is fired by the base of our automatic nervous system. And it goes up from there in complexity and utilizing the latter evolved parts of the brain. The realization of the blocks on the side were one of those angel singing moments when my brain makes up for torturing me the other 98% of the time. So for those who aren't watching the video, you have mirroring behaviors at the bottom of the empathy level. Then emotional empathy, rational empathy, conscious empathy, and global empathy, which the mode is the mirroring behaviors is automatic. You see it, you repeat it, right? The emotional empathy is evaluative. You actually think about it a little bit more. Rational empathy is predictive. You are starting to look more in depth and understand it and predict what is going on. The conscious empathy is reflective. That's where you are fully understanding what's going on and then showing empathy based on the understanding. And then the global empathy is fully immersive. It's all right, sorry, I've got these a little bit mixed up here. I see, this is what happens when I read the article where he goes more in depth onto these social couplings while I was driving home from work. I got them mixed up. Anyway, let's finish the article and we can look more at that later on, because I would like to at some point in the future dig more into the different levels of empathy, but I did a terrible job of it, so ignore everything that I said over the last minute and a half, and we'll get it right. Like I said, I got it right, but I got it upside down. What empathy really is some version of coherence matching of coherence matching of brain states. I've written a ton about this already. If you see someone yawn, you yawn. If you see someone crying, you feel sad. If you're more evolved, you read others' faces and body language and attempt to predict what has upset them. This isn't really novel. Honest researchers have been studying this since forever. And everyone knows, for example, a big hunk of communication is nonverbal, right? But the problem is that empathy research also attracts more than its share of psychopaths. They're looking to make things more confusing because they're anti-empathetic. And like it or not, academia houses a lot of these people for reasons mostly emergent, meaning that it's the way we do things around here in our rigid, pathological, title-driven hierarchy. How the hell do you think we can spend so much time grading young people if we weren't against empathy? We'd understand too much about our young people's predicaments. Thank you for admitting that academia are largely anti-empathetic sociopaths and psychopaths. Anyway, but back to weaponized empathy. Weaponized empathy is when you have an actual empathetic sense, but instead of really connecting and feeling someone else's pain or predicting how someone else might be thinking in a given space, you sneak in and you use that knowledge to twist the knife. And the knife is best twisted at the bottom of the empathy pyramid, deep in the brain's core survival and emotional functions. How does that work? The more sophisticated are familiar with the range of mental models of their targets, and then manipulate them directly with their virtues, hopes, and dreams. It's like the trolley problem, where you set people up to pull the switch to murder the grandma of your choice instead of theirs. Or you get them convinced to tie everyone up and reverse the trolley so it goes over both tracks. The relationally disruptive in the world, the axis to cluster Bs and Cs of the worlds, are best at this. They do it because it provides clarity for them to manipulate situations as they see fit. And this is going to get into the Hamas attacks on Israel and all of that stuff, which was at the time being utilized as the weapon of empathy. Take the current sadness of the October 7th Hamas attacks against Israel originating from the Gaza Strip. All of it is wildly sad and crazy situation because there is a larger history of authoritarian versus mean provocations on both sides that have degenerated this entire coupled social system, that is Israel and the Gaza Strip, into a pre-medieval developmental state where raping women and killing children is just part of the deal. But the weaponized empathy part is taking how you feel about something as raw as Palestinian children being killed in bombing attacks and then distorting the reality that what is going on is a genocide. Look, folks, it's appalling and it's terrible, but killing even 20,000 folks in a nation of 2 million isn't genocide. That's weaponized empathy at work. Weaponized empathy lays a black and white splitting power on complex issues in an attempt by the manipulator to take their side. They connect with you and understand your own personal biases and then use those biases against you to flip your brain. And they can do that with material that is factually true, factually false, or somewhere in between. It affects your core because the smart wielders of weaponized empathy know that they've got you down to your base level. The deeper in the brain the connection, the better. I just wrote a, for me, somewhat simpler piece on the complex issues of transgenderism, which lays out the case that some transgender folks have honest problems, while others manifest either borderline personality disorder or antisocial personality disorder. You can read it and decide if it's fair-minded or not, but someone interested in using weaponized empathy will distort this current societal travail and tell you things like this is the same as the civil rights movement, or more recently, the LGBT rights movement. That's preposterous. Jim Crow in the past was not the same as transhumanism today. But if you believe that it is, it's because a psychopath has weaponized your own empathy, your own ability to connect with others, whether emotionally or predictively, against you. And if reading this makes you irrational towards my argument, then you've been brainwormed. And that's the power of weaponized empathy, especially in a space where we really are fighting mimetic wars. Understanding that the people utilizing weaponized empathy are in fact some sort of twisted bad guy in this whole thing. Like, they're not showing you these things because they care. They're showing you these things because they want to manipulate you to believe the thing that they want you to believe, so that you will be outraged and become triggered by whatever it is that they're telling you or showing you, and you'll support the cause that they support. Or maybe not even a cause that they support, a cause that they view as the one that needs to be supported. That's the thing to understand, right? Because especially when we talk about like ICE and deportations and stuff like that, the ones who are using this weaponized empathy of those first couple pictures that we showed, the poor little boy in the bunny ear toboggan that's being detained, or the poor dad with his beautiful children that got picked up while he was out buying diapers. The people who are using this to make you or your friends or your boomer aunt think that ICE is literally the Gestapo, they're not welcoming any of these people into their communities. They probably live in pretty closed, gated communities. They think about Martha's Vineyard. They're all these super duper pro immigration, not just pro immigration, But we shouldn't even be, rounding up and sending back the illegals. Oh, no. They have every right to be here. Okay, dump them on Martha's Vineyard. Oh, no, not here. Like here where you live, literally anywhere else, not in our community. They're not using weaponized empathy because they care. They're using it because they want you to care about the things that push their agenda, which is effectively destroying your own community. They're not having it. They're not having their communities destroyed. Oh, no. They will round all them fuckers up and stick them on a bus and ship them right the fuck out as soon as they arrive. They're not having that shit. I don't know if you're aware of the peaceandquiet.net that allows you to put in different filters to find out how peaceful a neighborhood is. And one of the filters that has recently been added was mosques. And some of the other filters include liquor stores, payday loan places. There's a bunch of others. Just, you can do name filters. We won't mention any of the names. Just peaceandquiet.net if you're interested. But anyway, recently the mosque filter was added, and somebody in the comments asked, are you going to include a synagogue filter? And one of the replies to that was no, because if there's a synagogue, you already know that's a peaceful, good neighborhood, because they're not letting them infiltrate their own neighborhoods. There it is. So we see stuff like, bunny ears and diaper buying dad, and all of these things are meant to get you to feel bad for the people being deported. There's something that over 70% of the deportations were non-violent criminals. It's like, but they're still criminals. See, they're using this stuff to manipulate you. And then they use stuff like this. Deaths in ICE custody reached a record high in 2025. Well, that's deaths in ICE custody in the last 6 years. If you take it back to the earlier 2000s, that's not a super duper high number, a little more par for the course, but also it was a different time back then. Also, though, this is weaponized empathy. You see this red bar, you see this high number, higher than the last 4 years, especially. And you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. All these people are dying. Except we need to go back and look at the numbers. Per capita is the worst enemy of the left and all of their bullshit. Look at the numbers. The number of detainees in 2025 versus in 21, 22, 23, 24. Way, way higher. So you considerably up the number of interactions here. And then when you up that number of interactions and you look at statistically the number of detainees versus the number of people who, died in custody, the percentages aren't as bad as the previous 4 years. But also, when you dig into that number of the record most people who died in custody ever, even if it's not ever, it's at least in recent memory, which is ever for anybody involved in this sort of stuff. Like, if you have a memory longer than 5 years, you're like super special. Nobody thinks back. Most people can't remember past 2 months, much less, back 20 years. So anyway, when you look at that number and you dig into it, half of those are suicides. Not quite half. Almost half of those are suicides. And then I think 4 of them were heart attacks. And then one of them had lymphoma. A couple others that were just like all in all, 5 or 6 of them could probably be attributed to like mishandling or blatant mistreatment by federal agents while in custody. Otherwise, it was like they got sick and they were sent to a hospital and they died in the hospital while still technically under ICE custody, not in a detention center. They got sent to a hospital because they had a heart attack or they got sick and then they died in the hospital, but they're still technically in ICE custody. So they died, in ICE custody, which makes people think, oh, everybody died in a detention center. And again, remember, almost half of these were suicides. Like, this isn't like rampant mistreatment of detainees by ICE. Then you have the people that use oh, look how many, like all these people are getting shot. There were, in 2025, a total of 16 shootings that involved ICE. Now, this is the number that they use. 16 shootings, except that's 16 shootings that involved ICE. Of the 16, 3 of them were ICE getting shot at by peaceful protesters. Also, 3 of those shootings, of all of those shootings of the 16 total, only 7 were lethal. Only 7 resulted in a death. And then, here's a really fun one. 3 of those shootings involved somebody trying to ram ICE agents with a vehicle. This is 2025, all right? We're not talking about Renee Good or whatever the nurse dude. Pretty, whatever. This is just 2025. So 3 separate occasions where these people tried to ram ICE agents with a vehicle. So there might have been a little bit of a precedent has been established that like this is something that people try to do. So when she takes off and, floors it, yeah, they responded in kind because they've seen it before. Literally, the guy that got hit had been hit previously. Like, so they use this stuff to get you all ginned up, but they don't give you the full story. They don't actually give you any of the details or tell you what's actually been happening. 660 some odd thousand people were detained and or deported. And a total of 16 shootings. 16 shootings that involved ICE. Only 13 that were actually ICE instigated. And then I think of the 13 that were ICE instigated, there was 1 that I'm not real clear on the exact details, but it was in Chicago. And from what I've found, see, and it's funny that nobody talked about any of this. Like, why didn't any of this stuff get talked about when it happened? It's kind of weird, right? But the one in Chicago, they said she had a gun. There was a gun on scene, but then she ended up being a citizen and she survived. And then a judge threw it out. And then there was questions about the gun. There was a lot of squirreliness with it. But that's the only one that was like questionable. The rest of them were like they were being attacked or somebody tried to run them over with a car. And again, only like 6 or 7 total deaths. out of 660,000 interactions. It's pretty good numbers, pretty good odds that you're probably not going to be murdered by ICE. They're talking about U.S. citizens being detained. Oh my God. 170 in 2025. 170 U.S. citizens were accidentally detained out of over 600,000 interactions. 170. Those are pretty good numbers. Like, the odds of you being picked up by ICE as a U.S. citizen accidentally, statistically very low. 170 out of 600,000. Also, of that 170, less than 20 spent the night in jail. Say that again? I thought they were just being like held at infinitum forever, and not less than 20 even spent the night in jail. Of the 170, over 150 of them who got picked up wrongly were released same day. Didn't even spend the night in jail. They figured it out, realized they made a mistake, let them go. And literally 0 U.S. citizens were accidentally deported. Now, that doesn't sound like a big bar to, to hurdle over, but Obama's last year in office, they accidentally deported 4 U.S. citizens. Nobody talks about that. Like, oh my God, I'm a U.S. citizen. I have to be in fear of ICE picking me up and deporting me to some foreign country for no reason. No, you don't. Statistically, not going to happen that you even get picked up at all. If you do get picked up, it's even a better statistical probability that you're going to be released within a few hours, and virtually a 0% probability that you're going to be deported to another country. Unlike the Obama administration that deported 4 people. 4 U.S. citizens got shipped out. But yeah, that's, we're not going to go into the other like Obama era statistics. Like, what ICE did in 2025 is leaps and bounds better than what they were doing under Obama. But none of that gets talked about. Instead, they show you the bunny ear kid, and they show you the poor diaper dad, so that they can make you feel a certain way about things that are completely bullshit. Diaper dad had been here for a long time illegally. I don't understand these, like, they've been here for 10 or 20 years and just like thought they could stay. Like, your visa expires. You either have to renew your visa or get the fuck out, or apply for U.S. citizenship and, become legal. It shouldn't be that difficult. There are like programs that will help you do it. And then you don't get deported. Wow. Crazy, right? Oh, they used the poor little 5-year-old boy as bait, and then they detained him. Dad saw him and just tucked and ran like a fucking coward. Like, father of the year over there. I'm rough on my kids, but holy shit, just like ditched him and ran. And so then what else are they going to do? They put the little kid they took him to a care facility. They didn't take him to Alligator Alcatraz. Like, they took him to a care facility for kids to make sure he was taken care of. It's like, what? But they know that 90, 95, 98% of the people who see this stuff are not going to look any further into it than just the picture they show you. And so they're able to hit you at that base level, at that automatic response of, oh God, no, that's terrible, right? Like, that's what they're going for. It's It's the clickbait, rage bait. It's all that stuff. I mean, the rage bait, clickbait, these are all weaponized emotions in different varieties. That's what the internet is. And all of it preys on the fact that they know the average person is too fucking stupid to look or think or try to find out anything beyond he went out to buy diapers for his kids and was snatched by ICE. They want you to see that picture and be outraged. Be better. Be smarter. When you see it, you have to be like Tom Hardy in Mad Max Fury Road. That's bait. That's bait. Don't go for the bait. Be smarter. And then tell all your dumbass friends who aren't smarter, hey, you know what's actually going on here? They're actually weaponizing your own stupidity against you. You need to be smarter too. And if we can all just convince one or two people to be smarter, maybe, just maybe, we can turn the tide on the absolute fucking idiocracy that has taken over this country. Can we really? I don't know, and I'm not sure that I think we can, but at least the people that you know are smarter than that, let's try to convince them to exercise the old brain, get some of them wrinkles working. Too many fucking smooth brains around. Let's start using what we got upstairs and not be sucked in to the bullshit that is specifically designed to target and manipulate how stupid people are. That'll do it for today. I will be back on Tuesday to talk about some other dumb bullshit. I don't know. I hadn't decided yet. I had a handful of different little short articles that I thought were interesting, and so I'll probably jump into one of them on Tuesday. In the meantime, hope you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend, and I'll catch you next week. Later.